I'm aware of Muji and Rupert Spira, but they're not people that I have followed very closely.
Okay. Yeah, they're like non-duality type teachers, similar to the Hindu view, and I've been listening to them a lot. I think it's really helpful for trying to let go of your ego and stuff.
Sure. Okay, welcome Ariana and Patrick, Nancy, Matab, Rose, Viri, and Wu Wei. This is the open opportunity to uh, have some coffee and tea with Bante and the Sangha, and also to ask any questions or bring up any points that may be interesting or vital for you in this present moment experience.
What type of practices do you recommend to overcome sensual desires?
What kind of practices do I recommend to overcome sensual desires?
Yes.
I think you need to involve yourself and exhaust yourself to doing good deeds. If we don't have a real avenue or practice of doing good deeds in our life, then it is I think it's very likely that we're going to have a lot of extra energy that we aren't able to manage. So you have to make sure that you are keeping busy or doing the work every day, because if you're not doing what you should do more and more as much as you can, then it's likely you will do what you shouldn't do. You know, that extra energy has to go somewhere, and it tends to go towards unskillful directions or ways of being.
Yeah, and I have another question, like about attachments and stuff. Like, whenever you witness someone, a loved one that is hurting or they died, do you think that it's a proper response to feel nothing? Because that would mean that you have no attachments, or should you feel sadness, or should
Um,
you feel nothing?
Having no attachments doesn't mean that you don't feel anything.
Okay. So what exactly I just feel like it's incorrect to feel sadness or anger in any situation, but I'm not sure. Do you would you be able to give an example of a proper time that you're allowed to feel sad or angry?
Whenever a feeling comes up, you need to be with it. You need to feel it. You need to face it. There's no proper time that's acceptable to feel your emotion, and we don't get
But
to.
I guess
This is the This is the attachment view that you're talking about. It's to be so attached to controlling how you feel that you reject what you're feeling, isn't it?
well, I my theory is that if you don't have an expectation to begin with, then you cannot feel anything afterwards. So if you don't have the expectation that someone's going to live forever, then whenever they die, you will not feel a certain way. You won't react to the situation. So
If
I think it all starts with expectations.
if you were a robot, that might work. But we are a human being, and that means that we can't just program our mind. We can't just think ourselves through the mind. We have a heart mind. So starting to work with our emotions in a more skillful way and in a more non-attached way means that we start to listen to our heart mind, and we also listen to our lung mind, our stomach mind, our body mind, not just the intellect, not just our thinking.
It seems to me that if you're attached to something, then you react, and a reaction is all the plethora of emotions. Am I correct? I mean, if you're attached, then you react. But if you're not attached, then you are not. You are not. Your feelings are not bound to feel a certain way based off of situations outside of you. And so I'm of the ideology that nothing outside of you should determine how you feel on the inside. And I think that's basically what attachment is talking about. Do you agree? Or
I don't know that I agree or don't disagree. I'm just listening.
okay.
We can develop all kinds of theories in our minds about what perspective we feel is most valid or legitimate, but it doesn't mean that that theory is necessarily something we can put into practice. And if we are attaching to theories about not attaching, we may be developing attachment and thinking that we're developing detachment or non-attachment. So a good rule of thumb is to go right to the source. Go right to the present moment experiencing, which is not a matter of rejecting the intellect or rejecting thinking, but it's a matter of penetrating into the present moment experience, which is inclusive of thinking, but is not totally defined by what you think or what you don't think, for that matter. It's more a direct experience of awareness, a direct experience of presence. So we tend to give a lot of authority and importance to what we think and the views that we hold, right? The ideas about our own mind, the minds of others, the way things should be, the way things shouldn't be. But in reality, hot water is dangerous.
Well, I feel like if you're truly like in the non-self being, in other words, the Buddha being, which of course I'm not, but I'm just saying like my theory is that like you would not be affected by any situation outside of you, like fully detached from every single thing, and your
It's not correct.
identity is like
That's not correct. So like I said, you're developing a notion of detachment that's a kind of rejection. So the Buddha got a stomach ache. The Buddha had people that he loved or cared about. The Buddha had mental and physical experiences, right? This is the nature of having a body and a mind. The Buddha had preferences, right? I mean, we're not going towards this preferenceless, just vague kind of zoned out state. Rather, it's a state of intimacy with reality.
well, I feel like preferences means likes and dislikes, and I feel like likes and dislikes come from your ego,
What's the ego?
your identification with the past, your past memories, and like you only like things because you grew up a certain way. And I like video games because I grew up in the West.
Can you
But
have
I think,
preferences without being attached to them?
could you say that again? You broke up.
Can you have preferences without being attached to them?
Yes.
There you go. Can you have thoughts without being attached to them?
Yes, but I feel like you can't have emotions without being attached to them, like sadness or anger. I feel like that is a indication of attachment.
Well, emotions are not a self, right? An emotion comes up, such as anger or fear, or even a positive emotion like love or compassion. And maybe for the average person, this would indicate someone, some real true person, a real true story. But for a meditator or a practitioner, the arising of an emotion would mean the arising of emotion and the experiencing of that emotion. And whether it's a negative emotion or a positive emotion, a skillful emotion or an unskillful emotion, depending on our attention, we can nurture that or untangle it. So, whatever emotion comes up needs our attention for sure.
Well, I will say one thing that I struggle with a lot is embarrassment, and so like my face will turn red in some situations, and so that to me is a very big indicator of itself. And so I think that that's like a reaction to situations around you, making you, react because you see yourself a certain way, and then other people project something else that you thought that was it's a different perception than you thought of yourself. And so anyway, I think that that's the same type of indicator of a reaction, showing that you have an attachment to yourself. Uh,
So, nobody has an attachment to nobody. What's the problem? If we are developing this kind of intellectual understanding of the Dhamma, it's very problematic, especially for a Western mind, an American mind. As Americans, we can be very psychological in nature. We can also be very isolated from community. And we can also have a tendency towards grasping onto objects, right? Usually that's physical objects, but that also extends to mental objects. And in general, that's just people, but this is my American experience. So the way that we start to practice Buddhism, which is more important than our thinking about Buddhism, is through doing actions of generosity, following 5 precepts, and getting involved in meditation. But we need to make sure we're practicing right meditation, right? Wisdom informed meditation. So if we are using this extra energy that we get from the Buddhist teachings or from like the little bit of space or the little bit of freedom that we get when we hear the Dhamma, when we hear these signposts of a deeper truth, if we're using that extra energy for our intellect and our thinking, you're just creating another trap for yourself, right? You're creating a spiritual trap, spiritual attachments, Buddhist attachments. And we want to develop Buddhist practices of non-attachment. And for someone at your level, Landon, and for someone at most people's level, that mainly means practicing generosity, doing good deeds. It's not so much about with no expectations, because we all have some expectations. We're not these ultimate selfless beings. We're human. So the point is that you practice generosity, and in a Buddhist sense, we would say practice generosity as it is concerned with the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. So we would say that the greatest gift is the gift of the Dhamma. The greatest teacher is the Buddha. The greatest community is the Sangha. So you practice generosity, or you practice dana, you practice volunteering, you practice supporting as it's concerned with the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. I think there's definitely a route to move forward, an avenue to move forward in that way. Historically, that's starting up communities like this and supporting communities like this to continue and to develop. That's volunteering or helping to build a meditation center, right? And then in the vein of what my teacher is doing, to build Dhamma hospitals, to build Dhamma orphanages, Dhamma women's shelters, and these kinds of things. But we have to keep it practical. The moment that our spirituality becomes this web of intellect and this whirlpool of thinking, we know that we've gone astray a little bit. It's not that we dull our mind or we dull our thinking capacities. It's that we're more penetrative rather than swirling around the whirlpool. The whirlpool is there, it's swirling around, and we go right down into it. We penetrate it. We go right down into our direct experiencing, present moment experiencing. We use the body as a tool to detach from the body. That is to penetrate into the body, to penetrate into our present moment breathing, to penetrate into our present moment seeing, to penetrate into our present moment hearing. Not so much about the thinking about it. And when we already have a strong disposition towards thinking and psychology and the intellect, it's very problematic if we start to now take our Buddhist practice as that, right? The intellect kind of co-opts it. The selfishness co-opts, attaches to this new perspective, uses the new spiritual terms to continue itself.
My definition of attachment is of non-attachment is performing actions without expectations and without reactions. But what is your definition of non-attachment or attachment?
That which is not defined by any definition.
Okay.
It is a natural state. It is going in accordance with nature. It is following the teacher. It is being the student. It is eating what's offered to you. It is breathing in and breathing out with mindfulness, with present moment awareness. It's not what you think. It's not some idea. It's not some story. It's not some narrative that you're building up and kind of keeping up with and making sure you're on the right side of it. It's breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in awareness, breathing out letting go. Breathe in peace, breathe out love. It's singing a happiness song. It's generosity. Detachment is generosity. So if you are someone that's really concerned in developing detachment and you're just at the starting point in many ways, start to practice generosity. It's not about Buddhist Discord servers or spiritual Discord servers to talk about philosophy or talk about, what is detachment or what is Buddhism or who is the Buddha or what is Vipassana or what is Samatha, what is Samadhi, what jhana is this. That's all okay. But the real entry point for detachment is generosity, is doing good deeds, is following precepts. There's not too much to think about. You don't reject thinking, but if your thinking has a quality of attachment to it or grasping to it, that's the stepping back point. And we need to become more and more skillful to notice the grasping point so that we can practice stepping back. And this is the function of generosity. I'm grasping onto this possession. I'm grasping onto this period of time where I can do what I want. And then you take that grasping point and you give it away. You offer it out.
Well, would you agree that there's no situation where anger is useful?
It doesn't matter if there's any situation where anger is useful. Anger arises and you've got to deal with it.
Well, to be honest, it's extremely rare, if not never nowadays, that I feel angry. I'm just being honest, it's very, very, very rare.
It's not much important because we have to come back to the present moment experience, present moment breathing.
Well, I guess I keep going back to all the emotions are reactions, and that's showing that you still have a self if you are feeling those emotions based off of situations around you. But I won't keep
What do you
going on
think
about
that
it.
means? What do you think that means, though? What's the implication of that statement?
I guess I'm just saying, like, if you let situations and items and things around you dictate how you feel, then that means that you're attached to them. I just feel like that's true.
Don't tell anyone what's true. What's true is not someone. What's true is not something, not some place, not some time. You are not someone to tell someone what is true or not true, because someone else is also not someone. We have three fundamental principles or aspects of reality in Buddhism: non-self, impermanence, and dukkha. So your statement is unsatisfactory, it is dukkha, it is fundamentally impermanent, and it fundamentally is not your statement. And it's not your statement about someone else. It is non-self, impermanent, and unsatisfactory. So it's not worthwhile to grasp onto it, to this idea. You should give this idea away. You should abandon this idea. You should detach from this idea.
So how do you recommend? You're saying you recommend doing those present moment practices to detach, but I was just trying to like give a more precise definition of that. I believe that's saying the same thing as what you're saying, though.
What you believe is not very important.
True.
So, Landon, if you want to stay at a meditation center, if you want to stay at a temple, get some kind of monk training, you should be completely ready for your thoughts and opinions and ideas to be less useful than sandpaper.
Yeah, whenever I say I believe, I'm just basically saying this is my current theory. I'm not saying that this is 100% true. I'm just saying this is what I feel like is my top theory right now.
Okay.
So I have an open mind. I'm not saying this is the way.
But don't attach to your theory.
Okay. I appreciate your perspective on it.
Yeah, don't attach to your theory. Okay, welcome, dear Sangha, Ariana, Caroline, Lauren, Matab, Nancy, Samira, Simcha, Trung Tao, Viri, and Wu Wei, and also Rose and Away and Nini and Sydney and Huang. Some people are asking what happened to my forehead. It was a massage gun. And instead of opening my third eye, it opened up a little bit of skin on my forehead. So it speaks to the fragility of the body. And this is our coffee tea talk with Bante. And so the space is available to have some tea or have some coffee. And also the space is available for asking some question and bringing something up that may be on your heart, mind with Bante and the Sangha here.
Hello, I have a question.
Okay.
So I'm new to Buddhism and basically everything, and I started by practicing meditation. It's been going really great, very beneficial for me in many ways. And so I was wondering, like, what more can I do? Like, what other practices can I do, and what other things can I do to, help me live a more harmonious life or something?
Okay. So firstly, you can start participating in actions of generosity. Firstly, you can start participating in actions of generosity. So for each person, that's going to be something different, right? What kind of actions of generosity are actionable for you? For many, how old are you? Where are you from?
I'm 22 and live in
Where?
Morocco.
Oh, Morocco. So for many younger people, you may be nearby family and nearby some elders, so you can volunteer or offer your time, offer your energy to do something for the elders, for your family members, for those who are close to you. You can practice uh, also sharing your resources, your possessions for the others. Could be people you know, could be people you don't know. More important is the sharing out and doing actions of generosity. In Buddhist countries, we have this notion of making merit. And some people have been Buddhist for their whole life. And the main way that they practice Buddhism is by going to the temple and donating to the monks, whether that's food or clothing, the robe, or the necessary things that the monks need, or even donating money. That is their main practice, to make donation to the monks. And this is a practice called making merit. So the idea is that through doing good deeds, through doing actions of generosity, you make merit. And merit is like the good effect from doing good deeds. So you should find an avenue for you in the life that you're already living to do good deeds, to do actions of generosity, to help the others, to share your time, to share your body and mind, to bring benefit. Now, from that place of practicing generosity and exercising that capacity to practice generosity, we kind of open up a little bit more space in our heart mind or in the direction for our life. In that, generosity is a practice where we are grasping onto something. There's something precious, something valuable that we're holding onto. Okay? And then we exercise the capacity to give that away. Now, what else are you holding on to? Well, you're holding on to your desire, holding on to your fear, holding on to complicated thinking, holding on to narratives that you have in your mind that keep you limited, that actually keep you from doing good deeds. keep you from untangling this knot of suffering. So when we start to exercise generosity in the most practical way, the most simple way, we exercise that capacity to detach, to let go, to open. Now, from that place of opening, what's recommended is virtue. So you prioritize doing actions of generosity, and then you prioritize precepts or virtuous living. You can even do an exercise such as like holding your hands in front of you, looking at your hands and saying, how can I be a good person? How can I be a good person? And in Buddhism, we have 5 guidelines, okay, 5 ways of conduct that you can bring into your life. Don't kill. This can also, you can add this to your, like, what you eat, so more vegetarian. Don't kill. Don't steal or snoop. Don't lie or speak harshly or spend time just chit-chatting or just listening to chit-chat. Don't commit sexual misconduct means be very careful with your sexual energy. And don't take drugs or intoxicants. So we put these things on our wall. We get these things tattooed onto our mind. And we keep it in mind throughout our normal daily activities. Generosity and precepts. Now, we talk about meditation, but meditation we can also see as doing good deeds more and more. So meditation can also be listening to Dhamma talks. Meditation can be joining a group like this and really being here. And meditation can be focusing on your breathing as it flows in and flows out. So these are really the establishment points or the anchor points for our Buddhist practice. Not so much about what you think. Not so much about some particular person or place or even, this particular idea of Buddhism. It's more about generosity, virtue, prioritizing virtue, and then keeping these things in mind more and more and more continuously. Okay, one recommendation I always like to share is called the Plum Village app. Plum Village app. So if you go to your app store and you search for Plum Village, you'll find, I think, one of certainly the best Buddhist themed meditation app for sure. And actually it's not really Buddhist, but it's just Buddhist informed. And it's very wonderful. There is a special joy and a special fragrance that goes along with being in relationship with monastics, being in a relationship with renunciates, people who are intentionally living their lives through renunciation and generosity. Through the monk lifestyle of giving up where we live, our job, our most relationships, certainly sexual relationships, giving up, being a part of the normal society, there is a lightness and a freedom and a insight aspect that goes along with how the monks live their lives. So the monks are living the monks aren't just practicing, to be generous and be virtuous and meditative so that they can kind of manage their life, but they're living their life through these practices. So a monk eats and lives at, and everything that a monk has is through generosity. The reason that people support the monk and the way of the monk being in relationship with others is all through virtue. And also their meditation and their wisdom. It's not about transactional relationships of, you do this and now I do that. So the Plum Village app in particular, rather than other meditation apps, gives you an access point to monastics, to being in relationships with the teachings of Buddhist monks and nuns. And there's something very vital about that. This community of the deathless, this community of renunciation. And this is the only community of its kind. I love
I'm sorry, could you say the name of that again?
Plum Village app. Plum Village
Thank you kindly.
app. I always love talking to people about this or bringing it up, that the Buddhist monastic community, right, the Sangha, is completely unique in world history. There's nothing else like it. Going back 2,700 years ago to the Buddha, and now you have this community of monks and nuns that has not just existed, but thrived up until the present day. There's nothing else like it. Nothing else like it at all. And especially because the religion or the tradition has always been about the monastics, the community of monastics and the people following the Buddha's teaching and supporting those monastics. And now we have Thailand, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Laos, Cambodia, these countries that are in many ways still built on the community of monastics. It's very, very interesting, and there's a lot of power to that. So if we want to get involved in meditation and insight and wisdom, the Sangha, the Buddhist community, is not to be taken lightly. It's really to be made use of. Since I was a young person, even before I had any real degree of stability in my heart or my mind, this aspiration of building community and being in community was very strong for me, even from a young age. As I started to get even a small amount of independence, this idea of being in community and intentional community and community living seemed very essential. There was something about it that just resonated with me, and it's something I wanted to be a part of or create or support. And I tell you, there's really no better foundation for intentional community that I've found than the Sangha, the community of monks and nuns. And it takes a lot of different forms, and now Buddhism is coming to the West. Buddhism is coming to America, right? American monasticism. So it's very experimental and new, but there's really powerful avenues for creating sustainable, intentional community on the foundation of generosity, virtue, meditation, and wisdom. And you're just not going to find any other group or society that offers that foundation so cohesively, so clearly than the Buddhist Sangha.
Thank you so much. That was really wonderful.
Yeah, Buddhism is all about, it's a practice. So the question is not so much what to do or what's the goal or how to do it, but it's the next step. It's the actionable path. What to practice, what to listen to, where to donate, where to practice generosity, where to volunteer. It's just to show up and start doing it. And that's safe to do because it's very clear and there's not much of a religious backing to these practices. Practice, do actions of generosity. Where do it. Follow 5 precepts. Start to prioritize virtuous living. Start doing it. Meditation. Start getting involved. But we need to be careful to practice wisdom-informed meditation. Otherwise, you can waste a lot of time and you can also get yourself entangled in unwholesome states of mind or unskillful ways of grasping and self-attachment. So we need to practice wisdom-informed meditation. Go ahead, Lauren. You can unmute your microphone, Lauren. There should be a button if you tap on the screen. There should be a button kind of towards the bottom part of the call where there's like a microphone. And if you press that, you'll be able to unmute your microphone and speak. Okay.
Can you speak more about the wisdom-informed meditation? What do you mean?
Means that you listen to people who have insight. You don't just, hear about some exercise and then you go and sit in your closet for, a week in the dark or something, or just come across one monk or one, spiritualist, some kind of meditation teacher, and then you just follow them and do what they say. You listen to the guided meditations and the teachings from well-known advisors. You prioritize virtue and generosity. It's a full spectrum approach. Real meditation is not about meditation. Real meditation is life and death. Real meditation is the ground of reality that is looking you in the face right now and opening up to that and widening out to that experience. If we are not practicing wisdom-informed meditation, then we're basically approaching it as some kind of exercise, like a physical exercise or a secular exercise. Well, we can say that we are secular or non-religious, or that we have this full logical grasp on our body and mind and our life, but that's not really true. Right? We all have these religions that we've built up inside of ourselves, these habit energies, these non-practical beliefs, these practices we do that do not sustain us or support us, both in relationship to ourselves and to others, right? These images and experiences that we follow and worship and believe in that are not wholesome or nourishing for us, right? And the more that we get into meditation, the deeper our experience of the body and mind will be, the more clear it will be. So there will be corresponding knots and tangles or sufferings that come up that you weren't previously aware of. And to deal with them, it's not going to be enough to just power through with concentration and relaxation. You also need to have an understanding of the deeper aspects of reality that are at play. And so wisdom-informed meditation, or being on the path informed by wisdom, means that we are recognizing our own humanity, and we are open to an approach that is informed by the collective human wisdom, not just our own, and not just as an exercise. So wisdom-informed meditation means that you're listening to guided meditations and teachings from well-known advisors, that you listen to Thich Nhat Hanh's talks, that you listen to Ajahn Brahm's talks, that you we have quite a few recommended teachers on our website, that you're listening to the talks from Sister Dieng Niam. You're listening to the Dhamma, you're listening to the truth teachings, the wisdom teachings, not just meditating. Go ahead, Lauren. Okay, Lauren, we're not able to hear you. So is that clear, Caroline?
Yes, that's very helpful. Thank you.
And it's very practical as well. So I can guide you to what I know from my experience. And I know from my experience that there are real teachers out there. There is real wisdom out there. And that out there is actually in here. Right? Sister Dieng Niam, Thich Nhat Hanh, Ajahn Brahm are not outside of your true self or your true nature. But sometimes we need to put effort forth to incorporate this deeper wisdom that is inside of us, but we're not necessarily recognizing that or recollecting that. So we may, even though that deeper wisdom is there, that inner wisdom is there, we may be practicing in such a way that doesn't align with that deeper wisdom. And so listening to the well-known advisors or the great teachers, we can recollect that wisdom and we can adjust our practice to be in accord with that. So, for example, there is an appearance of a separate self-entity. There is an appearance of a Bhante that is tired, or a Caroline that is hungry. Okay? And if we are tricked or deceived by that appearance all the time, if we're never relieved of that illusion, then we are going to practice according to a false understanding of someone, right? The reality is that the Bhante that is sleepy is not too much separate from everything. So of course, when we are sleepy, we can take a rest, but we shouldn't be tricked. We shouldn't lose ourselves in that experience that we don't recognize the truth now. Right? Because it can be Bhante is sleepy, but then it can be Bhante is depressed, or Bhante is good, or Bhante is bad, or Bhante is wise. Right? And now we're getting into, multiple days of delusion, multiple weeks of depression, multiple years of complicated, self-fixated views. So wisdom-informed meditation is detachment-informed meditation, is generosity-informed meditation. That whatever you get is to be used only and experienced only and given away and offered out, not attached to, not grasped onto, not stuck in. Even special meditation experiences, not to be attached to, just to be used only. Go ahead, Lauren. Let's see. You can try to speak. No audio. Okay, so let's sing a song. Some people are asking, how can we stay more mindful? How can we be more present? Sing a song with Bhante. What are we talking about here? Not about what you think, it's about what you do. So we're going to do the action of the practice song, the meditation song. This is the simplest song to practice together, and it has 2 lines. First line is, I am remembering who I am. Second line is, I am remembering. And we do each line twice. Okay? What does it mean to remember who I am, or to remember who we are? It means that we're not lost in the complicated thinking. We're not lost in the stories about ourselves, but we are remembering our true nature in the here and now, remembering our true freedom of just aware, just home, just free. All right, let's sing together. If you're here on Discord, you can unmute your microphone and join. Here we go. I am remembering who I am. I am remembering who I am. I am remembering. I am remembering. From the top. I am remembering who I am. I am remembering who I am. I am remembering. I am remembering. Here we go. I am remembering who I am. I am remembering who Okay, any questions? Okay, Lauren, we can hear you now.
Thank you. So, my question is, and
Maybe can you speak more close to your microphone?
is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. My question pertains to good deeds, and do you feel personally that the good deeds should start from home? Say, to simplify that, to start with a family member who has dementia or needs your care. Do you feel that your good deeds should always start with the ones closest to you, or does it not? It all matters, but does that not matter? Do you understand my question?
So this will sound a little bit strange, but actually we need to. This will sound a little bit strange, Lauren, but actually we need to become skillful to use the others. And we are using the others for doing good deeds. And we are doing good deeds with mindfulness and detachment. So in doing, we are just doing. And in that doing, we are staying in the present moment. Stay with our breathing, our body, and our present moment action. Okay? So the reason that what you said might be important, right, is because we are working to start with what is accessible for us. Right? You don't want to wait around to do good deeds or wait for this ideal situation or opportunity to do something like that. You start to do good deeds now. And you need to be able to use the people that are around you, the environment that you're in, to start practicing generosity, to start practicing volunteering, to start practicing donating. It can even be for the people that are around us that are helpless or homeless, or that we cannot get anything back from them. We can volunteer, we can share our time or share our possession with them, share our attention with them. So our parents or our loved ones, the people who are close to us, are to be used only and experienced only. Right? Make use of them as an opportunity to do good deeds. Not with this complicated thinking or transactional relationship. Not this kind of involvement psychologically or even socially, but just use them as a way to do good deeds. Use them as a way to practice generosity. Use them as a way to exercise your mindfulness and detachment, or your mindfulness and sharing out and offering out. If we only do for our loved ones, or if we only do for the people that are around us, then we will be limited in how much we can do. but also we will tend to be attached to doing for that person or doing in that place. And this can become a real problem, right? This can become a real issue. Some people are attached to doing for... Yeah?
Sorry, my apologies. That's where my question stems, I feel. Like, that's where my question is coming from. Exactly what you're speaking to now. Perhaps, that I need
Yeah.
to acknowledge and work through, and the irony is that for example, grandmother dementia has been very she has lived a life of doing for others, and it's what she was taught, and it's what she taught me and my mother, and if I were to stay and help her, do it with intention and love, but detachment. But I do feel limited, to use your word, a bit, because I feel not to quantify doing things for her per se, but I do feel a calling to do, I guess more is the wrong word, but so that's why I ask.
Well, our selfishness is very skillful. Our self-fixation. So you may have the ideal to, that you will be able to do more, or you will do it in a bigger way outside of this situation, but that may just be a kind of grasping. So you should try to do more within this situation, right? So do as much as you can do in the situation that you're already in, almost to the point where you overfill that situation with your doing. You overfill that situation with your generosity and doing good deeds. From that point, you may find that there is a more clear way moving forward in how you change your perspective or your direction. But you should try to get as much out of this situation as is possible, because you have the good conditions to volunteer, you have the good conditions to be selfless, you have the good conditions to donate your body and mind for the others, and you should make as much use as your so your grandmother, you said?
I understand exactly your explanation, your point, and I actually feel that, or actively kind of feel like that is quite organic to do that. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Once we get stronger in doing for ourselves and for the others, it's both kind of the same. When we're doing for the others, we're also doing for ourselves. When we're doing for ourselves, we're also doing for the others. But once we become more and more skillful in that, then our way of doing can widen out and can broaden out and can deepen, can be more related to practicing meditation all the time, right? Or practicing to offer out the natural mind or the Buddha mind, the freedom mind all the time in all directions. But at the beginning, we should try to make use of as much as we can what is directly available and accessible for us. And that includes self-care, It includes meeting our responsibilities, but it also includes abandoning our responsibilities. So for you, Lauren, I can hear in your voice that you are healthy and wealthy in terms of the mind, right? Body and mind, pretty healthy and wealthy. You have the good condition to support and to make use of this, right? This opportunity for your loved one to help take care. But for some people, they may be in a similar situation to you, but they are hopeless and helpless. And they have to take care of this person at this place and this situation. And so for them, it's they should abandon. And this is also a good deed, to detach. I was talking with someone recently who's a woman, have some severe mental health issues, severe suffering. And she's talking about how, and I've known about her for a little bit, she's talking about how she has to take care of her maybe parents, one parent or both parents that are, kind of falling apart physically, and like almost on a hospice level, or cannot manage for themselves at all. And she tried to end her own life. She being institutionalized and on heavy medication. So for someone like that, when we're in a situation like that, we need to abandon, we need to detach, we need to know that that avenue is there. As much as we are able to make use of our parents and our family, we also need to know how to abandon our family. But that's not to reject, that's to detach. And it's to do so in a skillful way or a wise way. So it's not to get rid of our children because they're annoying us, but it's to recognize our capacities that we have. And if we can't even take care of ourselves, well, it's kind of a self-explanatory situation, right? But we tend to not have that avenue in our mind of detachment, of abandoning, or even making use of. And it tends to be stuck in this situation of, I'm supposed to do this or I'm supposed to do that. You're not supposed to do anything. Okay? And Hazley just said, on TikTok, Hazley just said, shouldn't you try and take care of your parents when they get really old? Of course you should. But if you being attached to this idea of shouldn't you try and take care of your parents when they get really old, put you in a position where you're trying to end your own life and you're completely losing your mind and you have to be institutionalized, then you should abandon your parents. Okay? We live in a modern society, in this person's from Australia, so there are services in place, right? It's not just about attachment, but it's about using whatever is in front of us with mindfulness and detachment. That means using in the skillful way. That means using in the wisdom-informed way. Who are your parents? Your parents are no one. Who are you? You are not someone. But we need to take care. We need to manage according to the causes and conditions. And that means that when we are carrying around a corpse, because it is important or we have a responsibility to it, we need to know how to abandon that corpse and put it down so we can continue our journey. Otherwise, we will get really sick. Now, in American society or Western society, probably we need to be very careful about, this notion of abandoning our parents because it's detachment. Because that's what people tend to do, right? Put their parents in nursing homes or not really take care of them in the way they can. But we have the two examples here, right? With Lauren, who is in a good condition and a good state to take care and manage for her loved one, and should do it as much as you can. And then we may have another person who's not even able to take care of themselves. So they should abandon as much as they can. They should detach as much as they can. Because all these things that they're carrying with them, that they're supposed to carry with them, are completely tearing that person apart. Right? So that is to use only, that is to experience only, that is to abandon only, without these extra layers of a self-story, of a good and bad narrative, of a right and wrong, of a perfect or not perfect. Go ahead, Wu Wei.
I want to know that what you think about procreating or bringing new beings into this world, since we attempt to avoid causing harm. Do you think that the best way to spare someone a great harm is by not bringing them into existence in the first place?
I think that a lot of people are silly. You should have a child when you are ready, when you have a good situation to take care of a child, when your heart and mind and when you are developed. Not just isolatedly, but also you have community to support you. You know, we're not going to think our way through life. If you are having good health and wealth for your body and mind, and in terms of your community, wonderful to bring, to have a child, but also we don't control. Sometimes a child appears. You might wake up and I have a child, I have multiple children. So this question of what situation, or how, is it morally right for me to have brought these children into the world? Well, no, it's not morally right or wrong. It just is what it is. Children appear. We try to take care of them. I think there are probably a lot of people who have a child and they're not really in a good state of mind or a good state of community to take care of that child. That's true. So we should look deeply at, what is our situation, and not use a child to be like a source of happiness in our life. Rather, our happiness should be the source of a child. So some Buddhist schools, some Buddhist traditions are actually emphasizing, that you should be in a sexual relationship when you are ready to commit to someone. And you should be in a sexual relationship when you are ready to share that relationship with the community. And let the community know that, the two of you are committing to one another. And maybe the most clear reason for that is the child. Right? The potentiality or the nature of a sexual relationship to bring about a child. It takes, this is the saying, but it's such a true saying. It takes a village. It takes a village to raise a child. Two isolated people that are very busy and kind of addicted to their smartphones, and also very involved with work, and are also drinking alcohol and are kind of very self-involved. I mean, this is not a ideal situation for a child or for the two people who are responsible for that child. It's really, really difficult. And that's even just two quite, somewhat stable people, somewhat strong, stable people that would be in a situation like that and are trying to raise a child. That's not ideal. And a lot of people aren't particularly strong or stable or healthy and wealthy in body and mind. And they're also drinking, and they're also isolated, and they're also separate from a community. Children are deeply resource intensive, both mentally and materially. So we need to have a rich well of resources, mentally and materially, to raise children and to be there for them. And that's mainly community. I mean, there's no greater wealth than in community. There's no greater wealth than in our relationships with other people, well-minded people. So we should kind of keep all that in mind before we rush into a sexual relationship. Really. I think there's a lot of merit to that as well. I'm not against the freedom that people have with their life. In the 5 Buddhist precept, number 4 is don't commit sexual misconduct. So I think that you can have healthy, nonviolent relationships with other people where you don't necessarily need to be committing to a lifelong relationship, but you really do need to be very careful. There's a lot of responsibility that goes along with being in a sexual relationship. And we tend to just want to get the pleasure out of it without taking the corresponding responsibility. And it is tough, but that's life. And either you get a hold of the reins and you start working with it and being kind of authentic about the situation, or you just kind of wiggle waggle through it and get yourself and other people into a lot of trouble, a lot of suffering, unnecessarily so. Okay, any other questions? We've got to be ready for the heat. Adversity is natural to this body and mind. It's not something that we are going to avoid, no matter what we do, no matter how strong we are, how fast we are, how wise we are, virtuous, meditative. The heat's going to come. The adversity is going to come. And we need to exercise our willingness to face it. It's not about what we think. It's not about our ideas. It's not about the stories that we tell ourselves or other people. The truth is that mindfulness, doing good deeds, and to endure, to face, to be with, is of the utmost importance. Right? And to endure means that there is a difficulty. There is a lack of satisfactoriness. In whatever way you want to think about it, that's where you'll find unsatisfactoriness. Socially, psychologically, physically, mentally, emotionally. And we're not going to manage all these things. Somehow we've gotten into this idea that we're going to manage everything through our thinking. You've got to embrace. Your experience of breathing is more important than your thinking. If you cannot detach from your thinking, if you cannot abandon your thinking, if you cannot give away your thinking without grasping, then thoughts will imprison you. This breath, this heartbeat, this moment of present moment experiencing, let's take a few minutes to sit together and breathe together in silence. Not thinking, but just embracing what is here. Breathing and embracing. Okay, dear friends. So I think that today it will be nice to finish with taking refuge and also taking precepts. So this will be just like call and response, and the first part we'll do in Pali, in the traditional Buddhist language, and then the second part we'll do in English. So taking the precepts means that we receive the commitment, we receive the precept from the monk, and we make the promise to follow that precept in our own life. So we'll do Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa, which is paying homage to the Buddha, and also paying homage, appreciation to the Buddha nature or the Buddha mind. Okay? And then we will take refuge in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. So taking refuge in the Buddha mind and the historical Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama. Taking refuge in the Dhamma, the Buddhist teachings or the wisdom teachings, skillful teachings leading to the ending of suffering. And taking refuge in the Sangha. Taking refuge in the Sangha is taking refuge in the community of well-minded practitioners, monks and nuns, and also those who have a deep experience of the deathless, of the truth. Okay? And then we will take the 5 precepts: don't kill, don't steal, don't lie or speak harshly, don't commit sexual misconduct, and don't take drugs or intoxicants. Okay, so for this first part, you can chant along with me, Namo Tassa, and we can keep our hands in this position for the full period here. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Okay, this next part is call and response. So if you're here in Discord, you can unmute your mic and then you repeat after me. It's helpful if I can hear the response. Okay. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dhamma. I take refuge in the Sangha.
I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Sangha. I take refuge in the Sangha.
For a second time, I take refuge in the Buddha. For a second time, I take refuge in the Dhamma. For a second time, I take refuge in the Sangha.
For a second time, I take refuge in the Buddha. For the second time,
For the second time, I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge. For a second time, I take refuge in the Sangha.
For a third time, I take refuge in the Buddha. For a third time, I take refuge in the Dhamma. For a third time, I take refuge in the Sangha.
For a third time, I take refuge in the Buddha. For the third time, I take refuge in the Dharma. For the third time, I take refuge in the Sangha.
I undertake the precept to not kill.
I undertake
I undertake the precept to not kill.
I undertake the precept to not steal.
I undertake the precept to not steal.
I undertake the precept to not lie or speak harshly.
I undertake the precept to not lie or speak harshly.
I undertake the precept to not commit sexual misconduct.
I undertake the precept to not take sexual misconduct.
I undertake the precept to not take drugs or intoxicants.
I undertake the precept to not take drugs or intoxicants.
Taking these 5 precepts, may my mind be at peace.
Taking these 5 precepts, may my mind be at peace.
Taking these 5 precepts, may my body be at peace.
Taking these 5 precepts, may my body be at peace.
Having taken these 5 precepts, may I be free and may I follow the path continuously.
Having taken these 5 precepts, may I be free and may I follow the path continuously.
May it be, may it be, may it truly be.
May it truly be.
And we can chant together sadhu 3 times. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And we can make 3 bows. Okay, dear friends, I wish you the very best on your path of generosity, virtue, and meditation. Hope to see you again soon. And if anything comes up, remember that you are not alone You can reach out to me. You can also reach out to our Sangha, our community on Discord, and be well.
Thank you. Bye.
And if you're watching on YouTube, don't be shy to leave a like. Okay, and thank you for joining in. CS, we can take these precepts regularly if possible. Any opportunity, we can take these precepts.